Life is hard, you know it, I know it, everyone knows it. And if you don't, just wait, because suffering is coming. It always does. The real question isn't whether life will break you. The question is, what will you do when it does? Because deep down, there's something in you that knows this isn't all there is. You feel it, don't you? That longing, that whisper, that pull towards something greater, that's not just your imagination. That's real. That's God calling you home. But here's the catch. Before you can go home, you have to face yourself. You have to carry your burden. You have to step into responsibility and stop running from the truth. Because if you keep running, if you keep avoiding the weight of life, you'll never get there. So the question is simple but terrifying. Will you answer the call? Life is not just a random sequence of events. It is a journey, one filled with suffering, challenges, and the weight of responsibility. Everyone at some point will experience pain, loss, and hardship. This is not a flaw in existence. It is part of the structure of reality itself. The world is filled with chaos, and to live is to wrestle with that chaos, striving to bring order, meaning, and purpose to it. But amidst all this struggle, there is something deeper, a call, a pull towards something beyond the suffering. It is the sense that there is more to this life than mere survival. That longing, that quiet voice in the depths of your being is God calling you home. From the very beginning, human beings have sought meaning. We build civilizations, create art, tell stories, and pursue truth. Why? Because we are not just creatures of the earth. We are beings with souls, made for something greater than just existing. But the path to that greater purpose is not easy. It demands responsibility, discipline, and the willingness to bear the burdens of life with dignity. Many people try to escape it. They drown themselves in distractions, in pleasure, in denial, hoping that if they avoid the weight of existence long enough, it will go away. But it never does. The suffering remains, and so does the deep, unshakable feeling that they are meant for more. God does not call people to comfort. He calls them to transformation, to change, to grow, to rise above who they are now and become something more. This is not a passive journey. It is an active choice. It requires courage to look at the suffering in the world and decide not to be crushed by it. It demands faith to believe that there is purpose even in the pain. And most of all, it requires responsibility. Every person must take ownership of their life, of their choices, of their path. No one can answer the call for you. When a person chooses to walk this path, everything changes. The suffering does not disappear, but it becomes meaningful. The burdens remain, but they can be carried with strength. The chaos of the world is still present, but now there is order within. The journey home is not just about reaching a destination. It is about becoming the kind of person who is ready to step into it, to walk the path of truth, to bear one's cross, to face life with faith and responsibility. This is what it means to answer God's call. At the end of it all, there is a home waiting, a place beyond suffering, beyond chaos, beyond fear, but no one stumbles into it by accident. It must be chosen, pursued, and fought for. And the choice is given to every person in every moment. Will you answer the call? Will you take up the responsibility that leads to true life? Because God is calling you home. The question is, will you listen? The world is not a simple, predictable place. It is a battleground, a constant struggle between chaos and order. Everywhere you look, you can see this battle unfolding. It exists within society, within families, within individuals. Chaos is destruction, disorder, confusion, and suffering. It is the storm that tears through a life unexpectedly, the pain that emerges when everything falls apart. But order is structure, discipline, meaning, and truth. It is what holds life together, what gives it purpose and direction. The struggle between these two forces is not just external, it is internal. Every person faces it within themselves. God calls us to navigate this struggle with wisdom, courage, and faith. Wisdom is what allows us to see reality as it truly is. It helps us understand that suffering is inevitable, that life is difficult, but that there is a way through it. Without wisdom, people become lost. They fall into bitterness, resentment, or despair because they do not understand the nature of existence. But wisdom does not come easily. It must be pursued. It must be sought out through learning, reflection, and experience. The world is full of lies, deceptions, and distractions that pull people away from truth. Wisdom requires the ability to cut through those illusions, to see what is real, and to act accordingly. Courage is necessary because facing the truth is terrifying. The easy path is to ignore the struggle, to pretend it does not exist, to turn away from responsibility and seek comfort instead. But comfort is a trap. It dulls the soul, weakens the mind, and leaves people vulnerable to the very chaos they are trying to avoid. Courage is the willingness to step forward, even when fear is present. It is the ability to face the suffering of life without being crushed by it. It is the strength to take responsibility for one's actions, to admit fault, to strive for something higher even when it is difficult. Without courage, wisdom is useless, because knowing the right path means nothing if a person is too afraid to walk it. Faith is what sustains a person through the darkest times. Faith is not blind belief, it is trust in something greater than oneself. It is the understanding that life has meaning, even when it is not immediately visible. It is the certainty that goodness exists, that truth matters, that love is real. Faith is what allows a person to endure suffering without being consumed by it. It is what enables them to stand firm when everything around them is collapsing. Without faith, people fall into nihilism, into despair, into the belief that nothing matters. But faith gives strength. It provides the foundation for courage, the motivation for wisdom, the ability to walk through the fire and emerge stronger. God calls every person to this path. The battle between chaos and order will not end, but it can be navigated. Those who choose wisdom, courage, and faith will find themselves walking towards something greater. They will find themselves moving toward truth. They will find themselves moving toward home. Suffering is an undeniable part of life. No one escapes it. Pain, loss, hardship, these things come for everyone, no matter their status, wealth, or strength. The question is not whether suffering will happen, but how you will respond to it. Will you let it break you, turning you into someone bitter, angry, and hopeless? Or will you bear it with meaning, transforming it into something that strengthens you? God calls each person to take up their cross and move forward. This does not mean ignoring pain or pretending it does not exist. It means facing it directly, carrying it with purpose, and refusing to let it define you in a way that destroys your soul. Life presents two paths, one of avoidance, weakness, and resentments, and another of responsibility, resilience, and faith. The first path may seem easier, but it leads to emptiness. The second is harder, but it leads to transformation. The world is filled with distractions that promise escape from suffering, pleasure, entertainment, indulgence, but they are illusions. They do not remove suffering, they only delay the confrontation with it. Real strength comes from standing up straight, accepting the burden, and walking forward with faith. When you do this, something extraordinary happens. The suffering does not disappear, but it loses its power over you. Instead of breaking you, it shapes you. Instead of weakening you, it strengthens you. God's call is not to an easy life, but to a meaningful one. And meaning is found in responsibility, in facing suffering with courage, in choosing faith over despair. The path is difficult, but it leads home. And in the end, home is worth everything. Life is not something that simply happens to you. You are not just a passive observer, drifting wherever circumstances take you. You have a responsibility to yourself, to those around you, and to the deeper truth that shapes existence. Every action you take, every decision you make, moves you either toward truth and righteousness or away from it. There is no neutral ground. The world presents endless distractions, countless ways to avoid responsibility. It is easy to blame others, to seek comfort instead of growth, to hide from the weight of existence. But avoiding responsibility does not free you. It enslaves you. It leaves you weak, resentful, and lost. True freedom is found in taking ownership of your life, in accepting the burden of responsibility with courage and integrity. Aligning yourself with truth is not an easy task. It requires honesty, first with yourself and then with the world. It demands that you confront the lies you have believed, the excuses you have made, and the fears that hold you back. Righteousness is not a passive state. It is an active pursuit. It is choosing what is right, even when it is difficult. It is standing firm in truth, even when the world pushes against you. When you take responsibility and align yourself with truth, life transforms. The suffering does not disappear, but it gains meaning. The burdens remain, but they become bearable. You stand stronger, walk with purpose, and move toward something greater than yourself. This is the path God calls you to, the path that leads home. The choice is yours. Remain passive or rise to the responsibility that life demands. Suffering is an unavoidable part of life, but it is also a powerful force for transformation. No one escapes hardship, whether it comes in the form of loss, failure, betrayal, or personal struggle. The world is filled with pain, but it is not suffering itself that defines a person. It is their response to it. When suffering is met with faith, it ceases to be something that simply breaks you. It becomes the very thing that shapes you. It becomes the very thing that shapes you. Faith does not mean ignoring pain or pretending that suffering does not exist. It means facing it fully, understanding its weight, and choosing to move forward despite it. Faith is the belief that there is meaning even in the darkest moments. It is the conviction that trials are not just random misfortunes, but opportunities for growth. The greatest figures in history, those who overcame incredible odds, who carried great burdens, who inspired generations, did not avoid suffering. They walked through it with faith, allowing it to refine them, strengthen them, and prepare them for something higher. When you embrace suffering with faith, you begin to see its purpose. It humbles you, teaching you patience and endurance. It forces you to rely on something beyond yourself. It strips away the illusions of control and reminds you that true strength does not come from avoiding pain, but from enduring it with dignity and trust. Through suffering, character is forged, wisdom is gained, and the soul is purified. God does not promise a life without suffering, but He offers the strength to endure it and the transformation that comes from it. If you embrace that, suffering will not destroy you. It will build you into the person you are meant to be. Life is a journey, and every step you take moves you closer to or further from the ultimate destination. God is calling you home. Not just to a place, but to a way of being, a way of living in alignment with truth, responsibility, and faith. But the road home is not one of comfort or passivity. It requires deliberate choice and unwavering commitment. Truth is the foundation of this journey. To walk toward God, you must seek truth relentlessly. This means being honest with yourself about your flaws, your fears, your failures. It means rejecting deception, even when lies seem easier or more convenient. Truth is often uncomfortable because it demands that you confront reality. But without it, you are lost. Only by embracing truth can you build a life of integrity and meaning.